Alright gang, I just got back from Baton Rouge from my bowling tournament. Don't ask how I did, it's not worth repeating or mentioning, even though I mentioned it. So anyway, waiting for me here when I got back was my brand new 25-inch Makvision tri-mode monitor. And I already have one of these. It's in the MAME cabinet right now over at my cousin's house, and I'm sorry I haven't done a video on how it turned out and how it hooks up and everything, but I just haven't had a chance to get over there. He's been busy, I haven't been busy, and there's been things keeping me from going over, but anyway, I got another one. I got two of them. This is the second one. I will be installing it in the Mortal Kombat 2. I mentioned before that I was going to put it in the MK1, but I have done some contrast and compares, and it turns out that the MK1, in my opinion, is a better monitor than what's in the MK2. So I'll pull the MK2. That will be a spare, working 25-inch K7000 setup that looks phenomenal, but the MK1 looks better, and the two over here are K7400s that look better than the MK1 does. So I'm not touching these two monitors because those look fantastic. The MK3 has the best looking picture of any monitor I've ever seen, except for this thing, of course, because it's brand new. But this thing is a complete 10 out of 10. That's a 9.5 out of 10. This is a 9 out of 10. This is probably an 8 out of 10. So this will be taken out. I'll put the 25-inch tri-mode Makvision monitor in there. I guess I might as well mention the MK4 over there with the giant glare from the sun through the window. The MK4 has a 25-inch Neotech that looks just fantastic as well, so I won't be touching that. The Neo Geo has a 25-inch Sharp that looks awesome as well, so I won't be touching that. There's no need to touch any of these. Out of these 5 cabinets, this one's probably the worst, and it's still an 8 out of 10. So I'll be putting it in here. This will be a spare, and once I get my 25-inch Hanrex Polo that used to be in here working, combined with another extra tube I have and a working K7000, I should have 3 extra working 25-inch monitors, and that'll work out pretty well. So let's get started. Upon initial review, when you open the box up, you have the bezel closeout, and I will explain what this does later. Once I get the monitor in and the actual original bezel in, you'll see where this comes in handy. Now down in here, where's it at? This here, if you have a computer, this will hook directly to the computer. It's a 31 kilohertz input. And this works out pretty well as far as if, like, over here in the UMK3 I have a computer, but I'm using an arcade VGA card to output to the monitor. Now if I had this monitor in there, I wouldn't have to do that because I have a connector right here for VGA, because this supports 31 kilohertz. And but it also supports 15 kilohertz, so we'll be using it in the MK2. And this is the interface here. There's a connector that hooks to here, that hooks for your red, green, and blue. When I find it down in here, I'll hook it up, but I don't see it sitting down in here right now, so I'll have to go through everything and find it. But this thing here is the your remote adjustment board, and there's a switch on this remote adjustment board. It's right, you can't see it. It's right here, this thing. It's a 3-way switch. It's for well, I believe it's actually a 2-way switch. One side is for 15 kilohertz, the other side's for 31 kilohertz. So that's how you adjust it. And I'll show that in more detail once I get the monitor out of this box here. So I'm going to pause. I'll pull all this out and set it on one of these bar stools here, or maybe even on the ground would be better. And I will go through in detail how it all looks out of the box and what to expect when you do that. So one moment, I'll get it pulled out. And here it is. It makes quite a mess when you pull it out of the box, but it's worth it for a little cleanup. So anyway, it's really not much to say as far as how it looks. Everything is, of course, is brand new, but it's tri-mode monitor to work for VGA, CGA, and EGA, and it's all done. There's a bunch of relays. As a matter of fact, you can see there's a relay right there. There's a bunch of relays that will click over. When you first boot it up, you'll hear it click, 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 click. It's searching for an input. When it finds one, of course, it'll stop clicking, and then it'll start displaying the image. Now here's that extra piece I told you about. It hooks up to this little PCB, this interface PCB, then you plug your red, green, blue, and normal monitor connections on right there. And once you get the monitor installed, you hook this up, and you can route your remote adjustment board to wherever you would like it to be. I would personally recommend taking this ground and either hacking it off or hooking it up to a ground at some point, because what will happen is sometimes this thing will fly around free and touch any one of these metal components here and actually cause your image to screw up. So I would recommend either hacking that off or just zip tying it out of the way so it doesn't move around. I didn't damage my monitor, but I learned it the hard way. I'm sitting here playing, all of a sudden the image on my main cabinet starts going all haywire, and it turned out this thing had floated over and was touching something like that in there. So secure this out of the way however you choose to do it. But here is the switch. You've got, you probably can't read it because this camera doesn't zoom in, but it's right now it's at the 75 k ohm, 1 volt, and then 1 k ohm is 3 volt. I believe 75 k ohm is 31 kilohertz and 1 k ohm is 15 kilohertz, which would make sense because a higher number for this side would be a higher number for your 15 or for your kilohertz. But it does come with an instruction manual to explain everything that you would need. But just to verify, let me see here if I can do it with one hand here. You've got the checklist here, and it'll tell you, there it is right there, there's a switch there. Video impedance select, 75 k ohm is 31 kilohertz PC game, 1 ohm is 15 kilohertz, 24 kilohertz game, Sega Naomi. So this monitor will work for medium resolution and normal, or what is it, standard, medium and standard resolution, as long as you have this switch over on the 1 kilo ohm. It will automatically detect whether it's 15 or 24, and then 31. That's what all the relay switching is going to be about when you hear me turn it on. So there's really not much left to go over except for getting it installed and turning it on. So you've got your standard power connector here. I say standard because it's just a Molex connector, but if your monitor, this monitor does not require an isolation transformer, and because of that, it comes with an optional power cord. Now this power cord that's in this box will hook up to here, and then it has a regular standard outlet connector you plug in the wall. But for my purposes, I'm not going to be doing that, and I don't want to hack that thing up, because when I bought this I wasn't sure if I was going to end up putting it over here or in the MK2. I opted for the MK2, so now I have an extra power connector. But what I'm going to do here is, in my giant warehouse of cables and boards and shit in the closet here, I have a connector here that will plug onto the connector here, and then I will simply splice in the power. So that's how we'll hook it up for power. We'll place that there. So only thing left to do is take out the K7000, install this, and get it all hooked up. So that'll be next. It does come with the protective film, which is real nice. Of course, you just peel it off, but I won't do that till I get it inside the cabinet. And this does line up perfect with the factory monitor bracket holes. So all that's left is to get it installed, and before I put all the glass in and the bezel and everything back in, I will show it in operation, and I will help adjust the controls for my comfort and for yours, so to speak, and we'll go from there. So one moment. Alright, well, one thing I want to do here before I pull this original K7000 out is to show you what's going on here. The original monitor, you can see that the black non-viewable area pretty much comes up to the edge of the bezel. Let me pop this out. You can see the black non-viewable area here that's around the outside of the monitor. It goes all the way to the outside of the bezel, like this. It's a reflection, but let's try this side. There you go. You can see it goes all the way to the edge of the bezel, pretty much top. So I want to point that out, and I'll get the other monitor in here, and you'll see the difference. Alright, monitor's installed. Everything's adjusted on the controls as far as height and width and hold and all that good jazz. I got the protective coating off. I have wiped the screen clean. I have not reinstalled the nuts yet, but that's not big a deal. Or not that big a deal, I should say. Yeah, I already turned it on, made sure it worked, and adjusted all the contrast, brightness, height, the width, everything. The image is a little bit cockeyed to the right, so I need to adjust the yoke back over this way, because in shipping that moves a bit. So the image is not flat across there, it's kind of angled to the right. No big deal, I'll adjust that back later, but for now I just want to show how it turns out and how it looks. So here it is. I will fire it up. Let me kill the light so we can see. I mentioned before you're going to hear a bunch of clicking and everything. Well, that's normally on the when you're using a computer, because it's trying to search through what resolution you're using, or what input, whether it's 15 or 31, and when your computer is first booting up, it's not outputting a video source, so this thing tends to click around until it tries to find a video source, and then when your computer finally boots up, it'll click on. So that's why you didn't hear any relays clicking that time. But trust me, if you're using this for a computer, you'll hear those relays clicking off and on. And there it is. Brand new 25-inch tri-mode Makvision. Looks awesome. And you can see, well, maybe not now, but there you can see right there, and you follow this along, it's down below over here. You can see the corner of there's a gap between the bottom of the text block there. Over here you can't see it, so the image there, you can see at the top here how it's higher over there and lower over here. The image is, the yoke is kicked that way, so I need to kick it back that way to straighten it out, but I can do that later, no big deal. That's not a part of this review, but the monitor is completely beyond expectations. Look how crystal clear that thing is. Round one, fight. So, all I can say is good things about this monitor. It's fairly simple to install, not too un-user friendly, or not too user unfriendly. Would probably be the right way to say that. So, now that we know it works, now that we know it looks awesome, and how everything hooks up and controls, and I went ahead and zip tied this thing off like I talked about. Now that we know it all works and looks good and is well worth the money, I will say how much it costs later. The issue that you're going to run into when trying to replace these is when you put the bezel on, and this is why I mentioned this earlier. Look at the giant gap you've got. You got this gigantic 1-inch gap there, and you can see the outline of the metal frame of the monitor. Now before, the viewable area would go all the way to the edge of the bezel. That's why I mentioned that. This black line used to be way over here, so you actually lose about 1 inch all the way around. So you end up with about a 24-inch monitor. You can see how it doesn't go all the way to the end of the screen. So so you actually end up with about a 24-inch monitor instead of a 25-inch monitor, because on these, it goes all the way to the edge of the, see, the viewable area goes all the way to the edge of the bezel. On this one it doesn't, you got about 1 inch there. So it's a 24-inch monitor, to be quite honest. But you know, you got this gigantic, enormous gap here. Now that's what this thing is sent for. What this will do is sit in here behind the bezel. What you got to do is actually, I've seen people try and set them in there like this, but you can still see the gap. So what you do is you have to actually get some double-sided tape. I prefer to use the blue 3M painter's tape, and roll it up and stick it to the back of this thing. Then you have to actually stick it to the monitor, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. This thing ends up going on here like this. What you got to do is get yourself some 3M painter's tape or double-sided tape or whatever tape you want to use. I would not use Scotch tape because this thing's kind of heavy, and over time it'll start sagging on you. So I would get some double-sided tape or some 3M blue painter's tape, and you have to tape this on here. Puts the tape on the back side of this. Actually, I'd probably use the shiny side out, but and then you have to tape it on here, or tape it around the black unviewable area. Once you get this taped on there, it'll be a world of difference. So I'll tape this on here, then put that bezel back in. You'll see it'll be a complete world of difference. And you're still going to be able to see the gap, but it is 110% or 10,000 times less noticeable than it was before. So I will tape this on here, put the bezel back in 1 second. Alright, closeout piece installed. What I ended up using was this double-sided 3M tape. You can get this at AutoZone. In retrospect, I said I prefer that blue painter's tape, and yes, but for those of you who might be in a high humidity environment or something, I mean, over time, even that tape itself might start to, the thing might start to sag on you. So I went with this stuff. This stuff isn't going to ever fail you. So I put 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 around. So now let me show you why that comes with this thing. and the difference that it will make. You're still going to have the gap. There's no way around that because you go from a curved screen to a flat screen. There's no way around it. But with this piece installed, it looks a lot better, 1,000 times better. You're still going to have this gap down here, which isn't a big deal, but because you have this thing covering the actual frame, because this is covering the visible frame, it doesn't look that bad. Once you get the glass in there, I mean, you can see, once you get the glass in there, it really isn't going to look that bad. Plus, you can completely tell now that it's actually, this is lined up with the edge of the black non-viewable area. And you can see completely now that it's actually about a 24-inch monitor, not a 25-inch. And it says 24.8 viewable area, but that's a flat-out lie. So, I mean, you can tell just by looking at it, you have an inch all the way around that it's not viewable. So you go from 25 to 24, but I'll sacrifice the 1 inch of viewable area for the awesomeness of the picture. So I will get the glass back in, turn it back on, give you a final look at it. But I also mentioned that I was going to originally put it in here, but of the two monitors, this was the worst of the two, even though this was probably a 9, this is an 8. But I went ahead and put it in here because of that factor. But I mean, you can see that the MK1 monitor itself is sharp as a tack and looks fantastic. So I kept this one in here. There's no reason to get rid of it or remove it. So I will get the glass back in and I'll turn it back on and we will do a final 100%, I guess, take a final look at it. So let me grab the glass. I'm not going to install the retainer bracket. I'll just put the glass back in. And there you go. It is not that bad. I mean, you can see it's not that big a deal. It looks pretty good. I can deal with the gap. I contacted Hap Controls or just hap.com, and they don't make a bezel. There's nobody that makes a bezel for this flat 25-inch screen. So yeah, that's why this thing comes with this black closeout piece, because they don't make a bezel for the flat 25-inch. But, and like I say, the gap is there, but when the glass is in and you're playing it, you're not going to really notice it. I mean, you can look at it and stand in front of it. Let me get out of the way here. It's not that big a deal, but in my opinion, well worth it. This monitor, with the monitor and the power cable and shipping, it was $498. So for $500 you can get yourself a brand new monitor that lasts you for a long time with your power cable and shipping. I think it's kind of highly priced, but because of the technology and the fact that it's a brand spanking new monitor, you don't got to worry about in 6 months from now your chassis blowing up. Well, within reason, of course. You know, things go bad, electronic parts go bad, but I would say for the 500 is well worth it. So I got one of these now in the MK2. I got one in the main cabinet. And like I say, with the two K7400s and the Neotech, and then in here was the 25-inch Sharp. And the monitor on the MK1 I talked about, I have all of the monitors on all my machines are fantastic condition with no problems. So the one that was in here, of course, I said it's now going to be an extra one if I want to get a Simpsons bowling cabinet and throw my Simpsons bowling in there whenever I get around to it. But that'll have to be for much later, like I said, when I get a new house, because I don't have any more room in this house I have now. So let's plug it in. I will turn this back off. I will. This, for those of you who don't know, most of you guys on my YouTube channel will know, but since I'm posting this on the KLOV and the BYOAC, people that don't follow me, this machine has been restored. It was gutted and it had a Area 51 in it, and the power switch up top is gone. So instead of wiring one up, I just wired a extension cord, hacked it in, and now I just plug it in and turn it on. So there it is. I wish I could explain or show you in greater detail how awesome this looks, but it's one of the best looking monitors I've ever seen. I say that about this one. The K7400 that's in this MK3 is the best looking monitor I've ever seen in my life, as far as the 25-inch curved CRT that's in all these Midway games. This thing looks the best I've ever seen it in my life, hands down. This one, because it's not the same type of monitor, is a very, very close second. It rivals anything I've ever seen. So that's it, guys. Thanks for following along, and I would recommend getting one of these if you've got the cash or the time. And you can see by comparison between the two machines how much smaller it is. But regardless of that fact, the quality is so outstanding that I'd recommend getting one. So that being said, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the review, and we'll see you next time.